So I want to welcome everyone to the September Public Speakers Association Virtual Summit. And we will get started now with our first speaker. And I am excited to introduce to you Paul Fink. Um, Paul Fink is the Maverick Millionaire, and he's one of the foremost authorities in business and personal development today. In his over 3 decades of sales, marketing, and entrepreneurial experience, Paul has moved over 20 million in real estate transactions, sold over 30 million in informational products, and ran over 250 live events. So welcome, Paul. Take it away.
Thank you so much. And if you could give me some controls to share my screen as I start this presentation and get moving. I will be leaning on the presentation, the PowerPoint in just a moment. And just let me know when that's good to go.
All right.
For all of you, welcome. My name is Paul Fink, and I am the Maverick Millionaire. And yes, I have done over 250 boot camps, presentations in the thousands, and I have sold well over $30 million plus in informational products through those endeavors. And you know, one of the key components, and there's so many, one of the key components is really understanding where you're going, what you're doing, and what the real purpose is. And I'm going to get into some of that in a moment. One of my biggest weekends, we did $2.2 million in one weekend. And that is actually signed orders with collected credit cards, checks, components thereof. So, you know, one of the things that I will tell you, and I just talk real, is that there's no BS in the numbers. There's no funny money in those numbers. It's real deal. All too many numbers that I see out there in the field, and I'll tell you where I get some of my information. All too much of the numbers out there are not the real deal. And so they'll talk about, oh, we sold this and we sold that, only it's not real collected. I'm going to talk about the real deal because my background is I've been in business for 35 years. I've started off as an entrepreneur right out of college. I've never worked for anyone a day in my life. And so with that comes a whole lot of business experience. And with business, the bottom line is the key. That you don't have a bottom line. You don't have a bottom line that actually adds dollars to your pocket. You're not going to be in business very long. And so you've got to create that movement. You got to create that motion, and you've got to create that focus in what you're doing. And speaking is a business. And we're going to talk about it in that realm is how do you move that business to create the $2.2 million in your bottom line? Now, for some of you, I will tell you that I've been a speaker now for 14, 15 years, maybe a little bit longer, depending on what you're counting as being a speaker, but actually taking a stage and presenting, it's been over 14 years, almost 15 now. Before that, I wasn't this guy. I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't the guy that would just take the stage and wow them. Anything but. And some people look at me now and they're surprised by that. They say, oh, no, you've been like this forever. I couldn't raise my hand. I couldn't take that action and actually go forth and be powerful on stage. Matter of fact, I was scared to death, and I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But you can create whatever you want. You can create that difference in your world. You can be so much more. So for all of you that, and just to get started, for all of you that are just getting going and being a speaker, take a look at some of the speakers that we have here today and some of the people that are going to be presenting, and you're concerned about, oh, I could never do that. Be aware that not all of us started in that way. Not all of us started with just taking the stage and being all so powerful. Most of us started not knowing a damn thing about what we were doing and not having any understanding about where we were going and not having the personal power, the personal confidence to do what we do now. That gets developed. We can talk more and more about developing that power and making that happen. Only I will tell you that that I've done a ton of work and effort on myself, and now I coach on that all around the world in helping people step into that power so that they can do all the rest that we're training you here to do. I will also tell you that it's not always roses and sunshine. That once you learn the skill and you're out there and you're like, wow, you know, every presentation is just going to be amazing. I will tell you, you never know what you're going to show up for. One of my first presentations, and for all those of you that are getting started, this story, and I'll tell it briefly, but this story usually helps people get clear with where they're going and what they're doing. I encourage all of you to get out and speak. I encourage all of you to be that person, because the people that speak will actually get the most opportunity, the most attraction factor. They're considered to be authorities. They're considered to be experts. And so absolutely going forth and being that speaker, standing up on stage and creating that movement is paramount to your success. That being said, it doesn't always go as planned. One of my first events, I remember I had just gotten started. I had done some speaking for some other people, and now I was going off and had my own product, my own presentation to give, with selling my own CDs, my own tapes, and my own programs. I was so excited, and I got an opportunity to speak on a stage that was in LA. Now, mind you, I live in the Northeast, and so this was the first time I was going to travel to speak, and actually it was the first time I was going to speak selling my products on stage. And so here I was, I got an opportunity. I live in the Northeast, I live in Connecticut now, and I was going to fly across the country, stay in a hotel, go, and it was a one-day presentation, so just staying for the day and then flying out the next day. Fly across the country, stay in a hotel, and give my presentation. And man, and the promoter was so excited. The promoter told me 1,000 people, it's going to be packed. And if anyone knows about promoters, well, sometimes those numbers aren't exactly what they appear to be. But he promised 1,000. I was brand new. I'm like, hey, if there's a fraction of that, if there's half those people, I'd be excited. I'd be thrilled. So 1,000 people registered, paid for the sponsorship or the opportunity to speak and to sell my stuff. As the event got closer, I talked to the promoter, and the promoter was like, well, we got some marketing screwed up, or some things didn't go out just right. So the numbers may not be quite 1,000, say like 700. All right. As we got a little bit closer to the event, that number shifted to now 500. Then it was 400, then 300, then 200. When I was getting like 2 days before the event and about to go to the airport, I heard, oh, it should be somewhere around 200, 250. But we never know. We've done a lot of marketing in the last hours, and that may move the needle even before you get here. Listen, I hadn't spoken before. So if there's 100 or 200 people, I'm still like rip-roaring excited. I fly out, stay overnight, get all dressed up, dolled up. I'm all ready, have my PowerPoint all set. I'm so excited and very nervous. Now, remember that part. Still very nervous. And I'm going to be presenting now, mind you, the auditorium. This was an auditorium that they still had set for 1,000 people. No, they had taken out a few seats. It was set for 750. Oh, it was a big auditorium with a big sound stage. You know, it was one of those concert auditoriums with a 10-foot built-in stage, 10 foot above ground. That's where I was going to present to the audience that they had set for 750. Now, I knew that they had been telling me the numbers were going to be less and less and less. However, They still had it set for 750. They had a whole bunch of sponsors that had paid, so they had all tables in the back of these 750 seats. The event was supposed to start at 9 o'clock. At 8:30, there's no one there. At 8:40, no, it was 8:50. One person walks in the room. 9 o'clock, another person walks in. They decide that they're going to delay the event just a little bit to get more people in the room. By 9:30, we had 5. They started bringing in some of the sponsors to come sit in the seats so that we had somebody to present to. They pulled us off the 10-foot soundstage and brought us down onto the floor right in front of, now mind you, although it was set for 750 people, it was still folding chairs. So now, instead of 750 people in folding chairs and me on a 10-foot stage with a 10-foot screen, 20-foot screen, I think it was, behind me, I was down on the floor showing people my computer with 8, maybe 10 people, if you count some of the sponsors that came and sat in the seats, 10 people in front of me. Do you get disappointed? Do you get frustrated? Should I have said, you know what, I'm done with this speaker stuff. There's no way that this is an avenue for success. There's no way I can make 2.2 million in one weekend, let alone, what about 2.2 million even in a lifetime? There's no way. Look, I flew across the country, spent all this money, and now it's going to be a complete loss. This is not the way to start a business. I don't think I sold anything to those 10 people because basically they were there just to spend a little time and waste a little time. However, what I can tell you is this: ever since that event and ever since that moment, I realized that I need to show up. I need to show up every single day, regardless of how the world shows up. I need to show up playing full out. I need to show up as if I've got 750 people in the audience, as if I'm going to create a $2.2 million event that day, that weekend, as if this is a multi-million dollar company. And I need to do that every single time, every single day. When you do that, the rest of this becomes easier. When you do that, everything else that I'm going to teach you and talk to you about and everything else you're going to learn today can actually have a chance of moving the needle for you, of creating the success for you. You see, I started applying that lesson. I played full out that day, and I played full out every single day for the last 14, for almost 15 years now as a speaker. I had that work ethic long before that because I had run multiple businesses, multiple million-dollar businesses. Where it's shown up. I remember one time I was going to an event, and this was a few hours away, maybe 5 hours away. And so I decided to drive to the event rather than fly, because it would have taken me almost as long, if not longer, to fly there with all the time at the airport, et cetera. So I just drove. And I drove down there, and it's 5 hours down, and drove down there, and halfway through there was a snowstorm. And the snowstorm would have caused most people not to show up at the event. It was only a couple-hour presentation, and it would have caused most people to, as far as speakers are concerned, to turn around and go home. I remembered my lesson from day one and remembered I show up regardless, every single moment of every day. I show up playing full out. And I kept driving, I kept moving forward, and I decided to show up. It was an evening event. They had a couple inches of snow, and this was not a town that usually had a lot of snow. And so basically it shut down. There were 5 people in the room that I presented to that day. I'd gotten a little bit better in my presentation, had learned a little bit more, had created more experience, had actually grabbed hold of the lessons I'm about to share with you. And learned what I was doing at a higher level, sharpened my axe, if you will. And I actually sold people, engaged with them into my program when there was only 5 people in the room. It wasn't until years later that I heard from one of the people in the room as they gave a testimonial to me, for me, that it was when I showed up and when I played full out and when I presented every slide and played 100% that night to that person that they said, that's the guy I want to work with. That's the guy that I believe in, because he's already shown me his integrity. He's already shown me his work ethic. He's already shown me how he shows up, even when the circumstances aren't in his favor. That person that engaged with me that night after I drove through a snowstorm to get there ended up being one of my top clients that now we're entering into our 12th year of them working with me consistently and coaching with me, where I've guided them through to an excess of their business now is valued at over 25 million. And they had just opened the doors when they engaged with me 11, almost 12 years ago now. That's what it means to show up. And that's where the $2.2 million will come your direction when you do that simple thing. I'm going to move into my presentation and get a little clearer. Want to engage with everyone here. How's everyone doing? Give me a high five in the chat. You're listening and we're resonating with you this morning. Give me a high five in the chat. I am able to see the chat, at least until I go to my presentation, it'll be clear. High five. A high five means that is just the number 5. Apologize. Number 5 in the chat. Give me a number 5 in the chat. You hear what I'm saying and you resonate with that. Awesome, awesome. For the people that are here, and I know we only have a small group, how many of you are have been speakers for more than 5 years? Give me a yes. More than 5 years. How many people are brand new? Give me a 1. You're brand new, or all within the first year or 2 of speaking. Excellent. Brian, we got you covered. Yeah. Excellent. So a little bit of a mix. Awesome. We're going to help you out across the board. Like I said, I've been speaking now for a while. And I'll tell the rest of my story as we engage with this. And I want to make sure I'm getting the right slide deck up here. Can you give me a thumbs up, Brian? You see my screen? Awesome, awesome. Just making sure. How I sold $2.2 million in one weekend. And I'm going to tell you a story about doing it different. I am called the Maverick Millionaire. The Maverick part is doing it different. Everything I do, I tend to approach it from a different angle, a different point of view. I tend to have developed my skill sets in different ways. Started off as a psychology major, neurolinguistic programming, hypnotherapy. I've gotten certified in all those and degrees in them. And then went into business in the medical field, in the dental field, in real estate, multi-level marketing. I've touched on and created just significance in all those industries, and then went into speaking and coaching and really helping people build up business, as well as whether it's a traditional business, a multi-level marketing business, a coaching business, or in this case, speaking and coaching. And so by doing it different, you can create 5, 6, and 7-figure sales numbers in your boot camps. One of the major advantages I have is I started off in consultative selling in Midtown Manhattan. You want to learn sales, go Midtown Manhattan and start knocking on doors. Man, that was my 20s. You learn a ton. So I became a speaker in 2007. And when I did, I knew nothing of the speaker industry, absolutely zero. I didn't understand, like, I was going to seminars learning about real estate at the time when I kept seeing these people up on stage saying, wait a second, they've got another business. It's not just what they were teaching on. Their real business was information marketing, speaking, coaching. That was their real business. I never sold anything from a stage before, and I was scared to death. And this is really key. When I first went up on stage for the first time, I could not say my name. Fortunately, the person that brought me up on stage knew that and didn't even give me a microphone. It was okay. I just stood there as stiff as could be, and he kind of introduced me, gave me a line or two of a bio, and said, "Yeah, you want to talk to Paul Fink? Go to the back of the room. He'll be there." And then he escorted me off the stage. No, it was perfect. It was designed that way. No, the host knew what they were doing, because I couldn't. I was a deer in headlights. I got desensitized to it, and I started to get a fractional more comfortable. The next couple times he did the same thing. Then I finally was able to say my name. Then I was able to say my name and a couple words from about my history and who I am. It's the first thing that you learn. You go to Toastmasters. What's the first thing? Okay, you have 1 minute to say something about yourself. Go. Because you should be able to talk about yourself some. Even that was a stretch for me when I first got started in 2007. That wasn't that long ago. 14 years later, I've sold over $30 million, and I've run over 250 boot camps. And that's not presentations. I've done thousands of presentations. I mean, a 3-day, starting on usually a Friday morning, ending a Sunday night, 250 boot camps I've run. I know how to move the needle. I studied all the methodologies. I've experienced all the different ins and outs of what can go wrong, right, and indifferent. And I'm here to tell you what makes the difference in your bottom line. Because that's what it was. In every one of these 250 boot camps, my income was dependent on the needle moving, the sales happening, somebody pulling out a credit card or signing an order form and making it happen. Otherwise, we lost money. And so when you're in that space and you're actually the owner and you are creating all of this, and oh, and by the way, I am the sole income producer. I didn't get born independently wealthy. I didn't have a silver spoon handed to me, and I'm the father of 6 children, and again, the only income producer in the family. 6 children, 3 sets of twins. I started this career when the children were, they're real close in age. They're 5.5 years apart between all 3 sets. And so pretty much started this when they were 4 and 5 were the youngest set of twins. The oldest was 9, 10. I hear people give me a ton of excuses why they can't travel around the country, why they can't do what they do. And oh, by the way, I built this business with my wife, also traveling with me and building this together. So you can have excuses, or you can produce the life that you want. Now, mind you, instead of leaving the kids home, we brought them with us all over the country, all around the world. We kept getting the letters every single year about the amount of time we were taking the kids out of school. And we got that nasty letter saying, you shouldn't be doing that. They're going to hurt their education and hurt their grades and hurt their future. And then I talked to the principal of the school and remind them that all my kids were straight A's, and they actually came back to school knowing more than the kids that were there, because we studied with them every night, keeping them up to date, and they were always ahead, whereas the teacher had fallen behind. So this was never a big deal. You too can do this and create everything that you want, not just the magnitude of a business and income, but also a great family life and great relationships. And it's all possible. Don't mistake the success that I talk about and the numbers, like, oh, well, easy for you to say. And, oh, well, you're only focused on money. What about the rest of the story? Well, my wife and I started dating 35 years ago. And my kids are now 20, about to turn 20, 21 and 25. And they all have successful careers, college careers, and all just contributing members of society. We can compare notes. So I say all this to say this too is possible. Have faith. So 14 years, $30 million, 250 boot camps, consistently producing high-end results and sold high-end programs. So one of the things that I want you to keep in mind is that some of the numbers to produce $2.2 million in a weekend, and if you haven't been taking any notes up to now, this is the time to start. $2.2 million in income has to do with two major factors. One is the number of people in the room. So we had about 400 people in the room for that particular event. The second thing that matters is that you have products that have a significant price tag. So when you're selling a book, and I've got a ton of books, we produce books, actually have a publishing house as well. This is a couple of the latest books, both in success and network marketing, that we've produced that are multi-speaker, multi-author books. If you're interested in any of that, reach out to me. That being said, if you only have a book, you have a small price program for sale, man, the magnitude of people that you've got to sell in the room, it exponentially has to increase. It's simple math. And so it's much easier, and there's a sweet spot. If you're looking to sell $1 million, there's a sweet spot of the price tags that you've got to have to create that magnitude. And for a weekend boot camp, I would absolutely tell you, you've got to be looking at a $15,000 to $25,000 program to really make it work. 15 is cutting it. You go to 25, now you've got the magnitude of a price tag to really build some real numbers. And that's some of the sweet spot in there for you to be able to really create some of what I'm talking about. Now, how do you build those programs? How do you create that? Well, come and spend some time with me. And for anybody here, I am going to give you some free access to me. So don't worry, this isn't a sales pitch. I'm giving you some free access. We're going to have some time to talk and to follow up on any of this. So if you're interested in having some time with me, stay tuned. So you definitely want to know how to design a program that's effective, design a program that's going to be scalable, design a program that's going to be sellable. So those key components are real important, and a price tag to match. I've been on the largest stages there is. I started in the real estate game, so I started consulting a ton of real estate investors. And so I was on the Real Estate Wealth Expo, which was a thrill to me because this was the stage. Tony Robbins and all the great wealth builders in the world were on this stage, as well as some celebrities. And in this particular case, Pitbull and Sylvester Stallone and Magic Johnson and Brendan Burchard and all these great people. And so this was huge. It also was huge because these were the events that I started at as a student. I was in the audience watching these guys when I first got started. And then 10 years later, now I'm on the stage and created this. And that was one. And then there was another one across the country that I was also on. And you'll see my picture is there somewhere on both of those brochures. And this was the major program that was given out at the events. And I got educated. All too many people, they get into the industry and then they're like, oh, well, I read a book or I saw a webinar. Man, you got to get educated. You want to be a professional, dive deep, know your stuff, know what you're getting into. Oh, I want to be an oral surgeon. I want to be a neurologist. I want to, and oh, but I'm not going to school. I'm just going to see some webinars. Yeah. No, you want to be a professional, and that's what we're called, professional speakers. You got to get educated. And so I got educated. I went and got educated with some of the best of the best, both in real estate, personal development, business development. And I saw these guys on stage and I said, that's who I want to be like. I want their life. I want what they have. And not everything. Some of the things that I saw that they were doing or how they were living their life wasn't everything I wanted, but I could bring me to the table. And those other things were really powerful. Like, being able to pay for college funds for all 6 of my children. Little things, really powerful stuff, right? So I got educated. And then I started sharing the stage because I knew that all I needed to do was follow the pathway. Do what I do, think what I think, you'll get what I got. And so I watched what they were doing and I followed suit. I followed the path and I started sharing the stage with these people. And one of the things that I did was that I jumped the fence. Instead of just sharing the stage, I actually created a company and started speaker support. And so I figured out side note, you want to go from 5-figure, 6-figure to 7-figure, you've got to start hanging out with 7-figure people. And so one of the things that I realized as I was just entering into this arena and I was making about $100,000 a year, and with 6 kids, that's poverty level. So I was making about $100,000 a year. Yep.
Paul, I hate to cut you off, but you're over time.
All
so
right.
If you could put your information in the chat or even flash it up on the screen real quick, then we'll move on to our next speaker.
I've got, give me 3 minutes. Would that be all right?
All
right.
How about 1.5?
Perfect. Here's what I want you to take a look at. And who gets that I enjoy speaking way too much. This is what I want to offer you up. 1, go to maverickoffer.com, get free consult. You want to finish the rest of the story, you've got to go to maverickoffer.com. It's absolutely free. You get some time, you get right into my calendar and we spend some time. 2, I've got live events going on all around the country. The next one is in Dallas in October, and come and tag me with Maverick Offer and you'll get all about that. You want to learn how to do events properly. I've got an event. I've got a program called the Maverick Bootcamp Abundance, MBA. Screenshot this real quick. Text me at 844-432-0449. Text MBA to 844-432-0449. And I would love to share with you the details and a big discount on that program and how to really get engaged with your audience and how to sell $2.2 million in one weekend. Talk to you real soon. Thank you very much, Brian. This was a blast. MaverickOffer.com. See you all.
Thanks, Paul.
You're very welcome.
All right. Let me get my slide situated here. All right. Well, it's time to introduce our next speaker. And I am excited to have Barbara Berry with us today. Barbara is an international best-selling author, sought-after speaker, and the Get It Done technology coach. With 3 decades of experience as a technology coordinator, instructor, and problem solver, she specializes in providing step-by-step Zoom and PowerPoint courses. And I could use some of that today doing Zoom. All right, so let's welcome Barbara Berry.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you for inviting me to speak to the Public Speakers Association today. It's truly a privilege and I appreciate this opportunity. So let's start with a question. What software are we using for our meeting today? Yeah, Zoom. It's currently the most popular video conferencing program on the planet. Why? Because COVID pushed us into this world of remote meetings. And Zoom met that need most easily and most securely. Now, people who don't know how to use Zoom are getting left behind. If you are using it effectively, you have a great advantage over other people. Even if you're somewhat aware of Zoom, you will still have an opportunity to learn from what I'm about to present. With Zoom, we can connect with clients almost as intimately as in person because we can see each other's facial expressions. So it's very important to know how to Zoom. But just going to somebody else's Zoom meeting, like we are going on Brian's meeting today, isn't the answer, because sooner or later, you'll want to present your own program. And if you only know how to be a participant, you don't know how to be a leader. Today, I'm planting that motivational seed to help you, prompt you to learn how to run your own Zoom meetings and stand out as a leader. While preparing for this talk, I had to decide what I wanted to share that would be most powerful for speakers like you, because we are all speakers. Zoom and being able to lead Zoom, and a leader in your industry has a program such as Paul was talking about and knows how to present it to sell the program. And the best way to get your point across is through PowerPoint. If you are using PowerPoint effectively, you have a great advantage over other speakers. You could use Google Slides or Apple Keynote, which are great programs too. I just know PowerPoint the best because I've been teaching it for 20 years. So today, even though I also teach Zoom, I want to talk to you primarily about PowerPoint because so many people have difficulty with their messaging. And even if you know PowerPoint, stay tuned because you don't know exactly what I'm going to show you. And I think most people walk away learning something new. So some of the difficulty people have working with Zoom is knowing how to lay out your slides in the most efficient and impactful way. And you'll see as I go through my speech with you, how I've laid mine out to give you some ideas of what you might do. But when you get into it, if you're not used to working with PowerPoint, you're going to be pretty much on your own, and it can be difficult. I have to say, at times it is difficult, but it's really fun when you are working with a group because everybody starts laughing about, oh, did you have that trouble too? The troubles that we experience. Misery loves company, or on the positive side, two heads are better than one. So if you're working with a group, other people can be feeding you ideas and they say, oh, wow, I didn't think of that. That's really good. Did you know that 65% of human beings are visual learners? 65%. Fink magazine published an article recently that indicated that the visual learners are those who learn and remember best through visual communication. So if you have a whiteboard, maps, images, photos of your ideas, show those. If you have a diagram for how to put something together, a visual learner will be able to figure, oh yeah, okay, this fits this way. And then they're well on their way. Without a diagram, not so much. So if you don't have anything visual for people, they can't follow you and you lose 65% of your audience. That's 2/3. That's a big number when it comes to your finances. I'm going to share my PowerPoint with you because, I mean, where would I be if I didn't show PowerPoint? Look at this picture. It's a perfect example of what it's like to use PowerPoint when you don't know how to make a PowerPoint. It's clear as mud, right? I hate to be in this kind of situation as a driver. 3 challenges people have who aren't using the power of PowerPoint or another slideshow program is clarity. You can't get your point across succinctly and you get lost in the explanation. So a picture is worth 1,000 words. You know that diagram? It's absolutely. Secondly, their business growth and income might fall flat because people need visual messaging that relates to their needs. And finally, sales. We want and need to increase sales, but you can't sell without clarity. Recently, I had a client who was giving a Zoom sales presentation to her clients. Because her messaging wasn't clear, she didn't get any sales. She didn't realize that until we had a chance to talk, but it was obviously too late. Her lack of knowledge was holding her back from growing her business. And she was about ready to give up on it until we had the chance to work together. We sat down for about an hour, and the next time she did that sales presentation, she got 5 clients out of 9. And you can do this too. And I have another story. You want to hear it? A few years back, there was a one-day live training in another city that was to be shared by 2 speakers. At the last minute, the morning speaker backed out. The other presenter, a friend of mine, had to take over the whole thing. But she didn't have any visuals for the audience because she was teaching an entirely different program than she had intended. A lot of people got lost, angry, frustrated because they were visual. Now, sometimes there's nothing you can do when you're caught by surprise. My friend did the best she could, but as I just said, she lost 65% of her audience because she had no PowerPoint presentation and no handouts to support it. So just like this windshield you're looking at, they can't see anything, so they don't get it. Do you sometimes feel alone, dreaming of an income generating business, but you don't feel prepared enough to get started? What could happen if, as a business owner, you elect not to learn PowerPoint? First of all, business not growing the way you want. Secondly, maybe paralyzed with fear and overwhelmed with the complexity of making a PowerPoint. So not using it. And then, like the woman in the stands here, getting left behind because people are expecting PowerPoint with a talk. I have a bit of an inverse story here. Years ago, I went back to school to get my teaching certification. It was a distance learning course, so I was learning from home, and it was my first college course in 2 decades. So I was, yes, the oldest in most of my classes. My professor was teaching this course on students with special needs. And boy, did I need this course. He emailed me the course curriculum and the PowerPoints for each lesson. And working with a textbook and the printouts of the PowerPoint, I didn't understand how the ideas fit together. I contacted him and asked if I could visit the class that he had for undergrads, which was an in-person class. I went in, saw how he was using the book and presenting the PowerPoint and drawing relationships between ideas. Goodness, just like that, between PowerPoint and his speaking with PowerPoint, I got it. And I aced the course. That's the power of PowerPoint for the speaker and the audience. Bottom line, if you haven't learned how to communicate effectively, then you're kind of all alone. there are 4 reasons why, 4 among many reasons why people avoid working with PowerPoint, sorry. First is fear of technology. Well, I want to stay in the 20th century with overhead projectors in a meeting hall, and typewriters, no computers, landline, touch tone phone, or flip phone at most. But we have to embrace it. Second reason that people avoid working with PowerPoint is fear of complexity. It can do so many things. It can be overwhelming if you don't know what you need or how to do what you need to do. Third, no time to learn. You're probably like me in having a pile of shelf help books, the wishfully thinking that you can learn skills and habits from books or from websites by listening to books or recordings in my sleep, you know, like they used to show in the movies. No, it doesn't happen. And then there's the big fear of having a tech problem during a speech. Well, think we've all seen things like this, whether on a live stage or where a computer or projector don't work, or in Zoom where the screen is not sharing properly, and in either case, as was with one person in a live audience, what she projected on the screen in front of the room was her speaker notes. So nobody got to see or needed to see or listen to her talk because they could just read all of her notes. And that didn't work out very nicely, where she created something wonderful. And yet, despite our fears, what are the costs of inaction? First, we can continue feeling frustrated with PowerPoint or with trying to make our message clear. Second, looking like a rank beginner, very amateurish, even though you're a top professional in your field. If you think a 4th grader could produce something that looks dressier than you do or has a better message, then it's something you want to be taken care of. Thirdly, if your audience tunes you out, you're voiceless, you're invisible to your audience. And finally, I call this leaderless because people lose the benefit of your knowledge because they can't remember it. They can't remember it. If they don't remember you, they're not going to follow you. And that's a tragic loss for you and for the world that you wanted to serve. In short, the cost of inaction and not learning how to develop a PowerPoint presentation is that it holds you back substantially. People can't remember what you had to say because your messaging isn't clear. And here's a great example. Remember when we were all going to networking events and everybody in the room would stand up and talk about what they do? And you might have 70 people in the room listening to what everybody else is doing. By the end, do you remember a single one of them by the time it's your turn and then at the very end? No, you don't remember them because there's no visual anchor other than their face in a sea of people. Maybe if somebody had a certain color tie or whatever, you might remember them and follow. Otherwise, you're out of their heads. On the other hand, what if you had a powerful presentation that your clients could relate to? What would that dream look like? You'd receive a lot more followers from your audience. and a lot more sales. Remember the 65% of people who learn and remember best with visuals? Even the other 35% still enjoy visual storytelling. You'd have a positive professional reputation, and event planners would be looking for you to speak on their stage or TV show, podcast, or whatever medium. You'd have a great deal more confidence, so you wouldn't have to worry about whether your presentation provides the correct messaging. It would, and that would definitely increase your income. And best of all, your presentation would support your goal of providing valuable service to your clients by quickly building trust. One of my clients was a biochemistry professor who needed to make his material into a PowerPoint. His audience was a group of people who were preparing for a professional licensing exam, and he needed to convey that message powerfully if they were going to understand and remember enough to pass that exam. He had all the information and diagrams in a Word document as their textbook, and even though the material was way over my head, I was able to help him transform his textbook material into PowerPoint slides. So imagine sitting in a room like this, you're trying to learn without a PowerPoint. Oh gosh, you're not engaged. Or maybe you're trying to take notes, or maybe you're flipping from page to page in the workbook, in the textbook, to try to find the illustrations that he's talking about. On the other hand, with his PowerPoint, you're engaged, you're keeping up, you're understanding, remembering, and hopefully passing the exam. How would you feel about your success when you've learned how to master PowerPoint? Can you imagine feeling like this woman and receiving a powerful reaction like this from your audience? Wow, she's got to be excited, proud of herself, confident that her presentation was just the right thing, and she's confident that she can create more successful presentations as well. So how do you get there? I have a recipe. I call it my zooming into PowerPoint recipe. The first step is to find, use, and manipulate powerful graphics, some of which you've seen here. They really jazz up your talk and give your audience something to focus on. Secondly, formatting text with impact, adding captions to graphics for maximum impact, maximum clarity. You can even create your own memes in PowerPoint. You don't need Canva or some other special graphics program to do that. Third step, learn eye-catching, unique slide designs for compelling messaging. So you're not overwhelming people, you're keeping it simple, but they're focused on what's on your screen and what you are saying. Fourth step is learning to speak effectively with this tool. Have you ever watched a speaker in person turn their back to you and read their slides? That's so gross. There was a CEO at a presentation sometime recently who had slides full of text and no pictures, no images. And he turned around, he read all his slides. The audience was totally distracted. He didn't get a single sale from that presentation. And the fifth ingredient of zooming into PowerPoint recipe is my secret sauce. Discover how to easily hold your audience's attention for the entire presentation. And I've kind of given you a bit of my secret sauce right here to help you make a massive difference in your messaging. As I said earlier, I've been teaching PowerPoint for more than 20 years, and I've always loved teaching it. It's visual and creative, and all my students have fun. Now, let's take a look at the effect of one graphic. We saw this one already. Let's take a close look. What does this image say to you? How do you feel when you're looking at it? How do you think she's feeling? Do you think she's happy with her success? Do you think that she's feeling like a leader? Do you think that she's feeling competent? Look at all those people cheering her on and telling her how wonderful she is. You see the confetti and the streamers? You can almost hear their cheers. You think that fits with my message to you? Oh yeah, it's a great image for what I want to portray to you. So this is an example of an effective slide. Did I even need words on the slide? That's just one example of what you learn in my course. Next, let's look at the difference between that slide that I'm sure really spoke to you about the success of that woman and this slide from a recent webinar about nutrition. This slide is so convoluted. You're trying to figure out what you're seeing while somebody's talking. The message is about as muddy as these carrots, right? You don't know what to look at first. I don't know, the tomatoes are in the middle. Maybe that's the most important thing. I cover these topics in my program too. Do you see now? I told you there was so much that you would learn about PowerPoint that you might not know already. And yet, you might think you knew all of it. I'd like you to raise your hand if you want to leave 90% of your money on the table so someone else can scoop it up. Any hands? No, I don't think so. That 90% is there for someone else because you know those clients will buy somewhere when they're ready. Every day that you don't know or don't use PowerPoint effectively, you're losing money. If you'd like to prevent that and keep that 90% for yourself, I have an emergency program for you. If you want to learn more about my Zooming into PowerPoint program, which starts on September 21st, then put your name and phone number in the chat. And then we can talk about this program and see if it's a good fit for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for welcoming me today and for participating with me. This has been a wonderful introduction to the Public Speakers Association. Thank you very much, Brian. Back to you, and can we take any questions?
Yes, thank you, Barbara. And also, could you give us your contact information? You know,
Absolutely. Yes.
Just say it for the recording, because
Okay.
this is being recorded and it will be put on YouTube.
Okay. Good. It's Barbara Barry, Barry. My email address is Barbara@Barry, my last name, basic.com. Barbara@barrybasic.com. And my phone number is 401-825-0033. And I do have, I'll put in the chat the link to find out more about the Zoom program, the PowerPoint program, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to stop my screen share.
All right, it's the top of the hour, so it's time to move to our next speaker. All right, our next speaker is Dr. Doreen Downing, and she is a psychiatrist and confidence coach who specializes in the treatment of public speaking anxiety. She also hosts the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. And Doreen once suffered from extreme stage fright. In conquering it, she discovered being connected to your authentic self is the key to relaxed and confident speaking. And once again, I could use her services as well. So it's my pleasure to bring to the stage, the virtual stage, Dr. Doreen Downing.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Brian. I love Barbara. She's helped me with my PowerPoint today. So I'm a living example of what you can do with PowerPoint slides. And thank you, Barbara. Thank you, everyone, for joining today for this. It's a short time, but let's get going here. It was about 15 years ago, I was sitting in an audience. And the speaker was a Harvard psychologist who had turned into a spiritual teacher, and his name was Ram Dass. He authored the book Be Heard Now, and he was also an early proponent of the mindfulness movement. I had an experience that day that I think I'd say changed my life. I actually don't remember what he said. I don't remember the words, the message, but what I do remember is something that Maya Angelou has said. I remember the feeling. And even today, as I sit here, I get little bumps on my skin, remembering the impact of sitting with this man. He had had a stroke, and yet he was still up on stage. And what he was doing was, in between whatever those words were, he was putting beautiful, deep pauses. And in those pauses, I felt this energy, this powerful, beautiful, deep, wise energy coming from this man. And it felt like there was a channel that then reached me and touched me very deeply. So that was the beginning of my sense of speaking, being able to transform listeners. You might call it transformational speaking. So that's what I'm doing today, is talking about presence and connection. And yeah, I have a slide, a PowerPoint slideshow that Barbara helped me with. So I'm going to share my screen, Brian. I just go share. Is that it? Yeah. There we are.
Yep, I can see it.
Good. Presence and connection, the secrets to speaking with confidence. Why do I call them secrets? Well, secret is something that is not so well known, or at least maybe some people might know it. But if I could say one thing in my message to you today, my secret is that in order to be heard now, you have to be here now. And yeah, words have impact, and we know, however, that they only go so far. And so, yeah, you've got a message, but you are the messenger, and that's what I work on. It's an inside job. I help people grow their strength. You might call it an inner presence muscle, IP muscle. And it's different. This approach that I'm talking about today is way different than the traditional approach. And I'm not saying leave the traditional behind. I'm saying let's just add to it. And in these secrets, each one opens up to a wider, deeper kind of channel of what's possible inside of us as beings, as people who, yeah, we're standing up or we're sitting down on the virtual Zoom, giving information to people. But the secret is who you are as you do that, what you're tapped into, a core kind of. The message comes from deep down inside of you, not from your script and your brain and trying to remember. And it's more about you, the messenger. So the traditional approach, I found this powerful, as Barbara would say, powerful image. yeah, we're trying to get ourselves strong, and we do that by structure in terms of, yeah, telling them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And we also do that by words and by making sure that we are clear and that our words have some kind of, a lot of dramatic pauses maybe, and that's about delivery. The eye contact, and in this slide, you see the fellow certainly has a smile. Of course, that's great. And the eyes are really strong. So I'm not saying leave behind learning how to do a beginning, middle, end, and craft a speech. I'm not saying don't look for words and vocal variety. What I am saying is that I'd like to help you add something else, and that's the strength, the inner strength of your own presence. I'm going to ask you to take a second here and view this slide. Note how this makes you feel. And if you could put it in the chat, what is the sense? How do you feel if you're in the audience with this person? What do you get? Brian's asking, is everyone seeing Doreen in her slides? So if you're seeing my slides, let's see what you can say to me about this sense of this person who's, of course, speaking. I'll say what I feel is that he's approachable. Yeah, somebody said, Barbara says, calm. It's a calm person. And he's engaging. And there's a sense of, if you look at his eyes, yeah, we talk about eye contact, but I call this eye presence. There's a soft and available sense of him being there with you. So he's not speaking at you. It feels like he's including me. Is that something that you are noticing if you're looking at my slides? Yeah, people are thumbing up. I see some of you on my slideshow here. Well, this person, I feel, is more of what I'm talking about in terms of being present and in the moment. I'd like to dive a little more deeply into presence. So again, if you could, in the chat, put down what you think presence means to you. What does presence mean to you? So the rippling effect, I think, is what we, as listeners in an audience, like I did with Ram Dass, however many years ago, I felt the sense of his energy rippling out into the audience. Somebody says being fully engaged. Yes. Being in the moment. Yes. Being what we call in the here and now. So I liked this image because if you think about yourself and what you have to say, it's probably something about transformation. You want to help people be more of who they can be. You want to help people make a difference themselves. Your message is supposed to move people, right? So that this butterfly sitting on this leaf that then drops, I would say this drop is like your message, your presence, however, and your presence reaches people and it ripples. And in the rippling effect, the people that you touch their circles and it ripples out into the world. And that's one of the things that I think is so wonderfully powerful about being fully present in the here and now and being available to your listeners in a softer way. I used to be Well, I'll tell you the story briefly here. I used to have the fear of public speaking. I'm a PhD psychologist. I'm sitting in my office every day. I see people and I'm working on their fears. However, I hid that fear that I was afraid. So what happened one day, I was challenged to give a talk like today. And I said, no, I can't. I'm too afraid to speak in public. And the person who was organizing the meeting, it would have been Brian at the time, I guess, said, but doctor, isn't fear your business? And that was a moment when I stepped into that challenge, stepping up to face my fear. And in the workshop, one of the workshops that I went to, we were supposed to take the form of our fear. And what I did was crouch down into a ball and hold myself really tight because I was not going to come out until I couldn't hold it anymore. And I let go and I looked out. I was still crouched down. And right in front of me was somebody in the first row. And I saw their eyes. And I said, oh, I could do this if I just do one person at a time, right here and now, like I do in my office. I sit and listen all day long. So what I'm talking about here, actually, as we move into connection, is that I know how to sit and listen to people and be with people in the moment, listening, opening up the space. And what I realized is that's what we could do with speaking. So you don't speak to a whole group at once, or you don't look at the top of their foreheads, or you don't look at a spot at the back of the wall. You look eye to eye. And I don't call this eye contact. That's a little, that's the traditional approach. My approach says, soften your eyes and have a gaze that takes in not only the person in front of you, but kind of gently expands your ability to be fully present with the whole group, but really with one person, kind of like that channel I talked about with Ram Dass, where I felt like there was an open channel and energy was coming straight to me, only to me that day. So connection. What does connection mean to you? Again, put it in the chat if you can, if you're seeing this slide and can participate here. What is connection to you? Looks like a couple people are putting in their answers. So connection is, there's a physical kind of sense of connection. I've got my body here, you've got your body there, or you've got your body in terms of, so Brian says, communicating with more than words. I think that's the point. That is the major point. And yes, this is more than looking at people and seeing whether they're on devices or whether they're really with you, not. This is a different kind of listening. It's a listening that I do in my office, which is non-judgmental, and I'm listening for the best inside of the person, their beauty, their magnificence, so that when I'm speaking and I'm in a room, let's say, and people are in front of me and, there may be some kind of look on their face that isn't quite pleasant. I don't look at that and think that they're judging me. I look beyond into what Barbara is saying here, seeing another person. And what I'm doing is connecting with a deeper part inside of the person who's listening to me. And that's pretty much the power of listening to those who are listening to you. And it's like looking around the room. It's harder on the screen here. I see just a few people, but when you look at somebody rather than the whole group at once, you notice that they are like they have a cup in front of them, a glass, let's say, and it's empty. And you look at that glass and you notice it and you pay attention. And there's kind of a sense of gratefulness for them being listening there to you. And just because they're in their seat doesn't mean that they're listening. So you notice, you pay attention. It's almost like you can acknowledge that they are with you. So there goes that kind of sense of being connected in a deeper sort of way in the here and now. Nothing else is happening. So you've created a connection with the person, with your being and their being. Do you understand? It's deeper. It's not just the traditional way of speaking that we are taught as public speakers. We are relating in a way to where people change, because change is a deeper kind of, yeah, I want something, right? You're going towards the desire inside of people to be more of who they can be. So what would you, I'm looking at our time, and I want to say that the benefits are being 100% authentic, being here. Let's see, Ray, thank you. All the senses are present. Yes, that's what we're talking about, relating, says Barbara. So the benefit is that, and this goes to what Ray just said around all senses, oftentimes we need to, the whole power of presence is that we can notice if anxiety is starting to come up, or if we are truly able to ground ourselves, center ourselves, quiet ourselves in that still point inside, taking that full breath to drop ourselves down. And I work with a lot of people who say they get afraid, they're anticipating, I call that anticipatory anxiety, and help them to come into the very present now as they are preparing their speech for an upcoming event, so that they don't lose sleep. So self-regulation is really, I think, one of the benefits of presence and connection. Spontaneity is another one, so that in the room or even on Zoom, like if I had technical difficulties, it's like how I present myself, how I take that moment, and we call it dancing in the moment. If I could dance in the moment with whatever is in the room, there's trouble or there's noise or in fact, today my neighbor was doing some construction and I went, oh, I hope at 10 they're done. And so that, I might have had to deal with pounding, next door neighbor pounding, but spontaneous in the moment. And this helps you with questions at the end where you don't really, it's a little like easy going in the not knowing, that you're able to take questions and take a moment, pause, because pausing is part of the beauty of presence and connection. You're giving yourself time to think or to reflect on what the answer is for you, what the truth is for you, so that it's much more clear, that you have clarity. And when you're breathing more fully and here, present and grounded, this sense of being clear in your mind, rather than trying to jumble and stay on track and follow a script, it's like, oh, I have space, rather than those kites like thoughts flying around. You've got to tether to yourself, an inner sense of strength, that inner presence muscle. And magnetism. This is something different than being dynamic. The first the first slide I showed you, I think, was of a dynamic speaker, and that's fine. That may be the kind of speaker you want to be, prancing around stage and gesturing. I'm an introvert. That's not my style. I would rather be magnetic and draw people to me rather than blast people with my message. And for me, I think that makes me much more authentic. And that's what my message is to you, is find what is working for you, what you want to say, how you want to say, but how you want to be. Be is my message. So the 4 takeaways all equal bask to me today. So the image I have is this person basking in the, and bask means reveling in your in the goodness. And I feel like speaking and being in your own joy as you deliver your message, and feeling like it's it's like petals going out into the audience so that they feel blessed by you, you might say. So the first B is breathe. And I know, oh yeah, we all know, breathe. But it's true, our brains and our body need oxygen. And when you get scared or when you get a little nervous, your body contracts, your breath is shallow, cuts off the whole flow of energy. Your words kind of get trapped up here, and oh, you've got to go find them, and you're scared that you're going to lose your way. So in fact, all of us, just take a breath. I've been talking. Take a breath. And I don't teach people which breathing exercise. There's lots out there, but I do help them pick one that works for them. Anchor. A is for anchor. Anchor into the center of yourself. Anchor into your core. Anchor down. My husband and I have a boat, and I know a lot about putting that anchor out and anchoring our boat so that we stay in one spot and float in a calm river or lake or wherever we happen to be. S is for smile. You bring the sunshine with you. It's not just this, lift the corners of your mouth. It's smile from your heart, because your heart has the energy, and it comes out in your voice, the resonance, and in your eyes. And K is for know yourself. Know yourself, which is, what the philosophers has said, know thyself. And it's not just your message, it's being able to, as we looked at all the benefits in the last slide, being able to regulate yourself, being able to take yourself into the moment so that you are reaching your people. So in summary, I would like to remind you that my message is, well, it has something to do with find your voice so that you can really be in this world doing what you're here to do, which is to speak out, find your voice so you can not only change yourself, but change the world. So thank you for listening today and listening to this secret of being more present and more connected whenever you have to be in front of a group. This slide says to me the way that I want to feel after I've been in front of a group. And I want to have you be with it just for a second here, and to also imagine, project yourself into some future where you are standing, when we will be standing, or even just here on Zoom, that people feel this way about you. You look out and there are smiles coming back. There's applause. There's, they have taken you, and not only your words, but imagine that your energy will still be with them years from now, right? That's the kind of impact I want to help people have in this world, not just the words, but much, much more. So Brian asked us to give information about how to contact us. Today I talked about just 2 of my secrets, presence and connection, and I actually have 7 of them. And you could download my 7 secrets at Doreen, Doreen, for those who are listening, Doreen Doreen7steps.com, Doreen7steps.com. And I do have a group starting also this in 10 days, September 20th, where I teach people the whole series of 7 secrets. And I also have exercises and online material that you get lifetime access to. And also we do lots of practice together, speaking with each other, bringing your messages to the group to share them and refine them. So that's going to be California time, Pacific time. I live Northern California here, just near San Francisco, at 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock for 12 weeks. And I did noon because I thought people could take an hour off for lunch break. So that's the freebie. And then if you want to talk, you put your name and phone number in the chat, and we could we could talk more about this program that's coming up, or answer any other questions that you might have, talk further about presence and connection, or email me, Doreen, Doreen, at essentialspeaking.com. Essential, I call it essential speaking because you're speaking from the essence of who you are. So Brian, thank you. Let me stop sharing.
Oh, wait, before you, I guess that's okay. So Doreen, on the screen, I thought it said 7 secrets, and then I thought you said 7 steps.
I have 7. I have two ways to get them. One is 7
Okay.
steps, and another is 7 secrets. So you're right. Thank you for catching that. 7 secrets or 7 steps, because it's the same thing. It's a process to go through to actually the 7 one is be yourself. So, and they all start with be. They don't start with, do this, do that. It's be present, be connected. Thank you, Brian.
All right. And does anyone have any questions for Dr. Doreen? I think I heard someone on pause. No? Someone must have a question.
I didn't make the other ones earlier today. It sounded like you needed to make a change. So did we have 4 people here today on our virtual summit?
Yes. We flipped speakers around.
Okay.
Yes. So we do have one more speaker. So we can go ahead and move on if
Well, let's see.
there are no other questions or anything.
I have somebody I know here on Zoom. I don't know if she's actually here. If she could unmute, it's somebody I have trained in the past and who understands and knows and teaches this process also. And her name is Lynn Belling. Lynn, are you here? I don't know, Brian, can they unmute themselves?
Yes, they can. In fact, I can't unmute someone. They have to do it themselves.
Oh, okay. So Lynn may be watching and not able to engage, but I wanted to say that I do train and teach people this process, and I've been doing that for over 25 years. There she is. Hi, Lynn. I thought I saw her on mute.
Hi, Doreen. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Lynn. Anything you can add, because you teach this?
I think it's life-changing when you take it in steps and come back. As Doreen was saying, it becomes a muscle, the practice of connecting with self. And what I like to say in terms of breathing for myself and people that I work with is, I love the image that Doreen also mentioned, and I say, anchor your breath. Anchor your breath. Let it let it go deeper. So often we're up here in our breath. We're taking these short, shallow breaths. And when we really allow the breath to fill us, it's so obvious. It's obvious in our whole body. It's obvious. And Doreen's exemplified it so beautifully, is filling space. We fill not only our bodies, but we exhibit that kind of self-connection with others. And it, I believe, it increases our magnetic ability with others, our magnetic attraction. And it's felt in the room, it's felt in the group. I was a teacher for many years, adult education and college. And, you know, when we do it ourselves, we, as all of us know, or speakers, you know, we change the feeling in the room, as Doreen has done here so beautifully, that calm, that even when you're excited,
Yes.
you can come back to self and you have to breathe. So it's not just all output. And then we breathe in the energy of others, and it's a process. It's an interactive engagement. It takes courage. It takes courage to be able to do that, and a lot of practice.
Thank you, Lynn. Wow. She's a model, you guys. She's a beautiful model.
Well, thank you, Doreen.
Yes. Brian, it's 10:30, so
yes.
I guess you have somebody else.
So thanks, Lynn. And yes, we'll move on to our next speaker. All right. So yes, like we said, we have moved some people around, but I'm glad that everything's worked out. And our final speaker is Rex Sykes. And after a skydiving accident nearly robbed Rex of his life and caused him to spiral down in negativity for a couple of years, Rex looked at himself in his apartment for 6 weeks. Rex locked himself in his apartment for 6 weeks to sort things through and develop the confidence to face the world again, living happily and successfully again. During those weeks of deep introspection and meditation, Rex discovered the keys for transformation. So, Rex, you have the virtual stage, and you should have co-host ability, so you can share your screen if you'd like.
Wow, well, thank you so much. Thanks for the introduction. It's so good to be here. It's so good to be here with everyone who's speaking, as well as all who are watching and listening. So it's my honor. I feel blessed, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to say, hey. So I am the author. I'll hold this up, but I am the author, and it looks like it might be backwards, but Life on Your Terms. It's Create the Life That You Want. And I wrote the book after 42 years of teaching, and another 55, 56 years of investigation, research, exploration, and diving deep into the different kinds of spiritual, psychological, emotional arts, behavioral arts that had transformed me. I began as a child in acting and dancing and acrobatics because my parents put me into that, and I developed a fascination for that. But by the time I was 6 or 7, as a child raised Catholic, I wanted to be a priest. I wanted to be a mystic. I wanted to have a connection with something larger than myself. And so I then asked my mom, who I would watch movies with, on Saturday afternoons, to read books to me, like the Bhagavad Gita, Think and Grow Rich, and different spiritual books and mind. I was going to say altering, but they're altering in a positive way, mind altering books. And by the time I was 11, I became a student of a hypnotist so that I could learn hypnosis, and I began practicing that for personal evolution. And the difference between when I was a child and to what happened with the skydiving accident was that while I learned the stuff and I practiced the stuff and I became a meditator and all that, I would say I dabbled more than I then I made it a habit. I mean, I knew about it. I knew a lot of it intellectually. I did much of it, but I didn't wire it into myself. It wasn't who I became. It was something that I did. And this is a huge distinction. I was about 25 years old when I went skydiving. I got injured, and a doctor, and I write about it in the book, so I won't go too deep into it, but a doctor misprescribed a combination of pills that should have been fatal. It was a fatal combination of pills, but it didn't kill me. I should have been, comatose. I should have, never have recovered, but I did. They considered me a walking miracle. So I decided at some point, a year or two later, when I emerged from this, that I was meant to be here. I had a mission on the planet, and then I discovered what that was. Prior to that, I had some success as an actor. I was going to get married. This doctor, what happened to me, I lost my girlfriend, I lost my career, I lost most of my friends, I lost my own self-esteem and anything that I had, I lost most of my money. I went on, as a result of the guilt and the shame and everything else that occurred because of this combination of pills that he gave me. I then ended up drinking and abusing alcohol and other drugs, and it culminated in a suicide attempt. And I couldn't even kill myself. That's how much I'm supposed to be here. So I'm very grateful that I'm here. And what I discovered at the point at which I locked myself in my apartment, I sat in a chair. I knew hypnosis, I knew visualization, I knew affirmations, I knew all these things. And so I sat in a chair and I went, why did this happen to me? How come I screwed up so badly? How could this have happened? How long is this going to take? Am I ever going to be able to get back up on my feet? And I would affirm that I would, and it just seemed to be pounding me. I go, I am great, I can do this, I can be confident. And the more I did that, the worse I felt in many ways. And I would visualize and try and visualize myself, and I would feel really bad. And I realized at some point that what I was doing was I was asking myself just horrible questions, like how long would it take? I didn't care how long it took. I wanted to know how soon I could get out of the chair. I wanted to know how quickly I could get my life back. I didn't want to know why this happened to me. I mean, it happened because it happened. I wanted to know what I could do as a result of it happening to me, how I could claim my life back and begin to live. Maybe I could get my girlfriend back or my friends back or my career back, but I wanted to know that I could do this, not what all the problems were. So what it taught me was two things. One is questions direct your mind. And so I developed eventually something called directed questions shortly thereafter. I've been teaching it for 40 years. And a lot of people have piggybacked on my work and put out books and different things since then. I ended up becoming a contributor to neurolinguistic programming, and people call me the OG of NLP and things like that. But what I did was I added improvements to the field, because back at that time in the late 70s, early 80s, it was very therapeutic, and everybody was trying to recover from bad things and things that had hurt them and get over phobias. It's very remedial. In other words, it was like a fix-it model of repair for therapists, but it made therapists better therapists than they might have been otherwise. What I did was I said, you know what? This is very intellectual and it's all about repair. People really want a life experience, which is what I did. I didn't want to just fix myself by getting out of the chair. I wanted to live life victoriously. I wanted to live exuberantly. I wanted to be, have a great life. I didn't want to just get okay. So what I did to the field of neurolinguistic programming, I introduced laughter yoga, because I ended up becoming a meditator and living in the desert in an ashram where we did laughter meditation every day. It's like 5 a.m. when it's freezing cold in the wintertime and all year round. And most of the country had never heard of anything like this. And introduced meditation, dance, something called contralateral movements or brain gym, which I did not develop, but I incorporated, so that the experience that people came when they would come into my workshops and or when I would travel around the world teaching for other people, that they would have an experience, a full body, heart, mind, body, spirit, soul, pocketbook transformation. It wasn't just intellectual and it wasn't just therapeutic. It was how do you design your life? And how do you design your life means you got to go inside and transfer yourself. It's from within to without, not without to within. So an important principle is this. If you have problems, and you look at your checkbook, for example, and you go, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to make the bills, and you feel bad, what's happening at that moment is the checkbook is dictating how you feel. Your circumstances dictate how you feel. Other people, the bank, the government, your teachers, your educators, your parents, your children, the barista at the coffee shop that gave you a dirty look dictates how you feel. And that's no way to live. You need to live life on your terms. You need to claim life back and understand that if you have a problem, and this is really an important concept. If you have a problem and you're trying to solve a problem, what you focus on, you get more of. Where your attention goes, your energy goes. So if you're trying to solve a problem, guess what you get to have? I'm outside. This is where I meet with clients a lot of times. So suddenly my dogs are going to bark. So you can consider that, part of life and an opportunity to jump in to the thing. The amazing girl companion dogs. I love them so much. They are so friendly and adorable. Anyway, and somebody just mowed my lawn. So that's what they're barking about. It's okay, Sasha. It's okay. It's okay. Come on, man. So at any rate, if energy goes where energy, Sasha, energy flows where attention goes. So, or what you focus on, you get more of. So if you look at a problem, and focus on the problem, you're going to get more problems. And the gift of solving a problem, frankly, is another problem, if you think about it, because the universe is expanding and increasing. And while it does, there's also chaos and entropy. So it's expanding while it's letting go of old stuff. Things are falling apart and breaking down. So as we increase and get better at doing things, guess what we get to do? We get to have less problems if we let them go. If we stop and focus on problems, then we just end up with more problems. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't get. If you say, okay, I'm not going to focus on problems, I'm going to focus on solutions, guess what you do? You create more problems. Because the solution is the opposite side of the problem. It's the same thing. You're not going to, if you're aware of a solution, that something needs a solution, you're aware that there's a problem. And here's the problem with a lot of people, or the difficulty with a lot of people. They're here right now, and they want to be there. They want to be over there. They're broke, but they want money. They're broke, but they want money. So they start affirming, I have money. I am abundant. Life is good. And that's not bad. That's useful. That starts fashioning and shaping your mindset. But if you say, I want abundance over there, then what are you most aware of? It's the gap between then and now. It's the gap between there and here. So if your attention is on there and what you want, if you want it, what does that tell you? You don't have it. You can't live a successful, incredible, wonderful, exuberant life going, I have needs, I'm insufficient, nothing is good for me, because it's always off in the past. So what you have to understand is that everything you want exists right now. So as an analogy, here's what, and I'll share a couple of analogies, but as an analogy, you're driving, right? You've left your location and you're going to your destination. Your destination is in your future. It's over there somewhere. And you know that that's where you're headed. And where you came from is behind you and you've left it, okay? You cannot drive looking in the rearview mirror. You can't drag all of that. You can't be sitting there going, boy, I wish I were home. I wish I were home. I wish I were home, and thinking about home if you're trying to get somewhere else, right? So when you're driving, where are you? You're right here driving, hopefully. Even though you drive subconsciously, it's a habit. You do it consciously and unconsciously, competently. You're paying attention to now. You're paying attention to the road, to the traffic, to the people. You may be listening to the radio or having conversations and drifting and all that kind of stuff. But it's right here and now in order for you to get there. You can't get there but by being here now. And if you successfully navigate here and now, you ultimately get there. So what does this tell us? It tells us in order to get what we want in the future, we have to live presently now. We have to be fully engaged with now. This is why gratitude is just one of the most remarkable things, because if you truly go, you know what, I have everything I need and I am absolutely sufficient and I feel wonderful, even if outer circumstances would beg to differ, you'll start opening up things inside yourself and opportunities and awarenesses that you would never otherwise have. Why? Because you're either over there or over there or over here or over there, except right where you need to be, which is present. So it's about getting present. Now, regarding the past, you need to let go, release, and drop it. People drag their past with them. You are not a machine. You are not a car. Your brain is not really a computer. So you cannot be fixed. You cannot be repaired. Yes, I know medically you can have, they can fix a bone and break and all that stuff. But here's my point. Your brain does not sabotage you. Your brain is the best thing you've got. Your subconscious mind is the most wonderful thing you could ever have. Maxwell Maltz called it a servant mechanism. Your brain, what your brain does, your unconscious, subconscious, by the way, these don't really exist. They're just descriptions for processes. There's no ego and id and super ego. We just label those things as things. There is no shadow side. This is just descriptions for processes that go on inside of us when we live. Your subconscious mind is your brain. There's some rules. One is and what I teach is so that you can get this at the cellular level, that you can transform at your DNA level. When you come into the world, you come in as a blank slate. Yeah, there might be some genetic predispositions here and there, but you pretty much come in as a blank slate. And from 0 to 7, or just about, you are literally in the state of hypnosis. You're primarily in delta waves, between 0 and 2, and between 2 and 6 or 7, you're primarily in theta waves, which are slowed down brain waves, which are close. One approximates sleep, and one approximates just right outside of sleep. So you're a sponge for everything around you, what people say, how they say it, loud noises, bangs, people arguing, what you hear, you hear no, something like 750,000 times by the time you're 8 years old or something. So you're conditioned by the people, sometimes well-intended people around you, and sometimes not such well-intended people. Your primary caregivers, your peers, your siblings, your teachers, the media, the government, your churches, your religions, all of that is part of a conditioning process. And as you grow up, you start validating the things that you learned. You start having, you try something and you then go, oh, I'm not good at that. Well, see, mom was right, or dad was right, or my teacher's right. I'll never amount to anything. Or I can't make money because, they said money doesn't grow on trees, or it's really hard to come by, or you have to work really hard. You have to get a job and then work for 40 years. And then you retire and get a gold watch, which doesn't happen today anymore anyway. So we get conditioned. This is why Aristotle said, show me a 7-year-old child and I'll show you the adults, because by the time you're 7, you're pretty much programmed as to what you will be as an adult. And granted, you grew up, and again, you experience it. So here's the thing: you don't have to go back and find. I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but you don't have to go back and uncover your beliefs and where you're broken and what's wrong and all that kind of stuff. You can, even in my book, I have exercises that you can do to go and look at your beliefs if you choose to. But you don't have to do it. All you have to do is look at your life, and if it's not working the way you want it, you should know that you have some beliefs that aren't working for you. Now, they're not working for your conscious mind, but they're working for you to keep you alive and to keep you consistent, because that's what the brain does. The brain has only two missions in life. One is to keep you alive so that you reproduce and you further the thing. And the other is to keep you the same so that you don't get killed, don't get eaten, you don't get hurt, you don't do anything. It keeps you in your comfort zone. So what does that mean? It means that there's this thing called Hebb's law, which says neurons that fire together wire together. So you literally lay down tracks, like in the old days when there were vinyl records. Well, I guess there still are, but there are grooves in these records. So you lay down these neural network paths, and this is why, there is what we are is just processes. When you think about it, we are not, that's why I say we're not a car or anything else. We're not a thing. We're a human process. We're a human being. We're living. And, our heart beats and our cells. I mean, the trillions and trillions and trillions of things that are going on right now as I'm talking and you're listening inside your body that are keeping you alive, all the communication between your cells, between your brain and your gut, between you're digesting your food, you're respirating, you're circulating your blood, your cells are dying and cells are growing. I mean, every 7 years, you're a completely different body. I mean, think about that. So we're processes. We squirt chemicals. We have electrical impulses. There's no structures in the brain. It's these electrical chemical impulses that I mean, they use the structures of the brain, but there's this electrical chemical impulses that wire together. So if you think you're stupid, guess what happens? You go, I'm stupid. Your brain, because it works by association, will go and find all the experiences in your life that it can of why you are stupid and who said you were stupid and when you were stupid. And I'll give you an example. I'm gonna use a word right now. I'm gonna go dog. Anybody have an image of a dog? Maybe it was your dog, maybe it was somebody else's dog, maybe it was a dog that bit you, maybe it was a dog that was friendly. Okay, but you probably have it. Now, if I say bad dog, does the picture change? You get different dog. If I go good doggy, does it change? How about wet dog? Does it change? So your brain works by association. It'll deliver you images, sounds, feelings, and sensations based on how you represent things in your mind, the words you hear, the feelings you have, the thoughts you have, the self-talk that you have. And guess what self-talk is? It's a habitual recording that is as if somebody took a tape player, recorded all the horrible crap in your life, and then plays it in your head constantly. And you sit there and go, oh, I can't believe, and people operate as if it's real. And it's really not. It's just a collection of voices and a collection of your own voice that has been going on since you were programmed as a little child and through your adult life that people drag with them forever. So if you're complaining about what happened when you were 4, 5, 7, 10, 18, 20, 30, however old you are, it's gone. It's over. It's history. The only thing that's keeping it alive is you. That's your choice. You're perpetuating the old, you're perpetuating the pain, you're perpetuating the suffering, you're perpetuating everything. And yeah, your brain is doing it because you didn't learn how to train your brain to do something different. Your brain learned it exquisitely well, and it will keep you doing it because that's what it thinks it's supposed to do, because it's only there to serve you. It's there to keep you alive and to keep you the same. So if you learned how to smoke, guess what it's going to want to do? It's going to want to keep you smoking. If you learn to get down on yourself and be crappy to yourself, that's what it's going to keep you doing, because that's what you learn to do. So if you grew up and you were abused and you feel a victim, it's going to try and keep you a victim because that's what it learned to do. And until you go, wait, stop, I don't want to do that anymore. I say there's dog crap and diamonds, dog crap and diamonds, dog crap and you need to choose which you want. And most people, guess what? 97, 98% of the population chooses dog crap for their entire life. That's why most people, 97, 98% of the population will die without having any money to leave to their family because they don't know how to manage their money. They don't know how to live fully. They don't know how to release the stuff. This is why I teach this stuff, because they don't know how to let go. And all you have to do to let go is let go. Drop into the present, let go of the past. Now, I'm going to liken it to this. I was very fortunate years ago, and I don't know how much time I have. I want to make sure that I don't go over, but and then I want to also tell you about a free gift. But many years ago, actually around 1980, I was hired because I also act. I act and produce movies and stuff. I was hired to play death on horseback. So the producers, directors gave me lessons with the premier horse trainer, wranglers, a guy named Corky Randall and his team. In Hollywood at the time, they did movies like The Black Stallion. You may or may not remember these, The Lone Ranger and stuff like that. So for over 6 months, every day I went riding with the best of the best to learn stunt riding, because I had to be death on horseback in a movie called Pale Horse, Pale Rider that starred Charlene Tilton at the time. And she had been a friend of mine since high school. I mean, we both worked at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood as teenagers. So I had to look like I knew what I was doing as a rider. And I had ridden horses, but well, here's the thing about the horses. They are so well trained that if you don't know what you're doing, if you shift a little bit that way or this way, forward or back, or you lay your reins this way or that way, or you pull this way, it confuses the horse because they have so many commands that they have learned by how you shift and use your body. Okay, that's how they respond. So if you can't control yourself, if you aren't an expert rider, you confuse the horse. And if you confuse the horse, you're going to get thrown or you're not going to get where you want. Now, if you don't ride a horse and you get on a stable nag, which is usually what they have in these trail, things, you get on and the horse won't move. It just stands there and you're going, come on, come on, come on, and the horse won't move because it does what it does. Or it goes around the trail and it brings you right back to the stable because that's what it learned to do. Okay, you're not galloping and riding but if you are an expert rider, then you tell the horse where it's supposed to go and it will serve you reliably because that's what it does. That's what your brain does. Your subconscious mind serves you, but you have to become the rider of your brain. You have to direct it. And if you don't direct it, guess what? It does what it wants to do. It does what it learned. And if what it learned is what you call sabotage, then it will sabotage you. And it's not sabotaging you. It's just doing what it thinks you want. It's actually your best friend. It's keeping you alive so that you don't venture out and change. But if you retrain it, And that's what it's about, is retraining your brain as an adult, consciously using, the thing between your ears in order to retrain your subconscious mind. Then you can live life on your terms. Then you drop the old, you live in the present, you let go of the future, but you know that what you're doing right now is contributing to that. So that it's not about the gap, it's about falling into it presently. When you do this, the entire world opens up for you in incredible ways. The brain, there's something called the reticular activating system, and it will look for things that are wrong in the world. There's no such thing as a negativity bias. There's a survival bias. People say negativity because it sounds like things that can threaten us are negative. But before humans were on the planet, there were earthquakes and fires and floods and all sorts of things. Nobody said they were bad. They just were. We as humans judge things as bad because we're property owners. If we lose our property, then that's bad. If a friend dies, then that's bad and sad. So we make judgments that the universe, that consciousness, that animals don't make judgments on. Doesn't mean that animals don't grieve or that you and I don't grieve. That's the normal part of being human. So that's, we're happy, we're sad. This too will pass. Things change. Okay. But what you want to do is you want to learn how to run your brain, run your subconscious mind so that it serves you the way you want to be served. You become the expert rider, and then you drive your brain where you want it to go. Okay. You don't have to go back and dig through all the crap in order to do that. You just need to learn to train your brain differently. So that means instead of choosing dog crap, you choose diamonds. And every moment you have the opportunity to choose diamonds means that you're going to have the opportunity to become aware of when you slip into the dog crap. And when you notice yourself slipping into the dog crap, what do? You stop. Don't perpetuate the dog crap. Shift out of it, do something new, get up and dance, sing, breathe, do anything else. It's kind of like when there's an accident and adrenaline is flowing through people. You know what an EMT will tell people to do? Tell them, walk it off, because the adrenaline is coursing through the body. They need to walk it off in order to, otherwise they're sitting there, just the adrenaline going through their body, or they're hyperventilating, so they breathe into a bag. You interrupt the pattern, and then you shift to what it is you want. So it's not this, that, not this, that, not this, that. I don't want that, I want this, but you don't focus on what you don't want. You focus on what you do want as if you already have it. I am this. That's why Jesus said, I and the Father are one. He didn't say I and the Father one day will be one, or I and the Father were one. He goes, I and the Father are one. Whether you believe in Jesus or not, it's not, that's between you and your maker or the universe. But what I'm getting at is something else, and then I'm going to close with this. And I love the Bible because I was a child evangelist, between the ages of 15 and about 2021. I traveled with some of the biggest evangelists in the country. And, is that this is the day the Lord hath made, rejoice and be glad in it. That's the whole day, everything in it. That's not just the good parts. That's bad, good, whatever you want to call it. All the judgments. This is the day the Lord hath made, rejoice and be glad in it. And when you learn that, then everything else is a piece of cake. It becomes easy, it becomes comfortable, it becomes fun, it becomes joyous. And what I want for you, and what I hope you want for yourself and for others, is to live the most incredible life that you can live, because you can. Just choose diamonds, not dog crap. And then just keep choosing diamonds. And then guess what happens? Just like when you learn to juggle, if you keep at it and you keep juggling and you keep practicing, you get better. And know this, when you start juggling, you're going to drop some balls. It's just part of the process. Okay, so you're going to screw up sometimes. That's okay. Just get over it. Okay, don't put more pressure on yourself than you juggle. And the more you juggle correctly, the better you get at juggling. The better you get, the easier it becomes. The easier it becomes, the better you get. And it continues until you become a master juggler. Same thing with this. Keep doing this. You stop perpetuating the past, drop into the present, and live victoriously and happily and with gratitude. And you'll get better at it, and you become a master of it. And then you'll be going, wow, life is a blessing. And circumstances don't dictate me. I dictate them, because you have a shift in your mindset. So for anyone and everyone who has my book, or if you get it at Amazon, I'm giving away a $497 bonus training called The Mastery Loop, which is about learning how to master these skills, to take it from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence, where you become a master juggler, you become a master at whatever it is you want to do, whether cooking, sewing, or managing your mindset, controlling your emotions, activating your behavior so you find opportunity. I said that the reticular activating system looks for danger, but when you train your mind right, it looks for opportunities, and it's the opportunities that most of us miss in life because we're so caught up in our problems, we don't get to see the opportunities that are there presently for us. So drop into the present, live fully, live victoriously, live with gusto, because hey, you know what? What's the alternative? And with that, I'm Rex Sykes. You can visit me at rexsykes.com, REXSIKES.com. It's my name. When my camera goes off, you'll see it. And if you do a / capital LOYT, and if you have the book or you get the book from Amazon, you put those receipt numbers there in the box and you get access to this $497 training. I hope you get it. I hope you get the book. I hope you read it. But more importantly, whether you do or not, transform your life and live the life that you deserve. So create your best life ever. I'm Rex Sykes. Thank you so much. And I'll put it in the chat.
Thanks, Rex, for everything. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for being with us. And thanks to all of our participants today. We can't really do this without participants, and but especially I want to thank all of the speakers today. So Paul, Fink, Barbara Berry, Dr. Doreen Downing, and of course Rex Sykes. And want to let you know that the next PSA Virtual Summit is going to be Thursday, October 10th. No, sorry, October 14th. Thursday, October 14th for the next Virtual Summit, and we hope to see you there. And we'll sign off. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What an honor.